Good afternoon, dear friends. It's a pleasure to be here at the DP Group seminar. Today we have an interesting topic based on China carbon neutrality. What action should companies take? As you know, China forecasts to reach the emission peak by 2030, pledging to become carbon neutral by 2060. The 2060 targets is just 10 years after the US and the EU commitment. Can China pull off this? Just 30 years compared to a target the US got in and Europe got in 70 years and US in 40 years. We're going to discuss today with our distinguished panelists about the state of art, which one are the situation, which one will be the plan in action that China will take, and especially how companies should behave in order to be part of this transition. I'm really pleased today to have among many of our speakers also the representative of the Italian embassy in China, Dr. Marco Midolo, first Counsellor and head of the Economy Commercial Office of the Italian embassy. Marco took office here since the beginning of 2021, and previously he was directly in the Foreign Affairs Ministers back in Italy. He will start to give the welcome remark. Please, Marco, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Carlo. Thank you to everybody who is connected today. Thank you for inviting me to today's event. This is a really welcome initiative. I think that this is timely and appropriate as the fight against climate change is one of the major challenges of our time, as we all know. So the journey to carbon neutrality is a global issue. We know that the energy transition is calling for radical transformations of our societies and economies, of the way we live in general. It implies a considerable shift of the patterns we have been used to over the past decades. Of course, I mean that's a really massive change of pattern. In this period, the energy transition and the climate neutrality are fundamental pillars of the policies of the Italian government as well, that I would like to mention. Prime Minister Draghi himself has said on past occasions that the energy transition and the path towards carbon neutrality has an existential importance. So this is something which gives sheds light on the spirit with which the Italian government is tackling this challenge. Sustainability and the fight against climate change is not only a sector of intervention by the Italian government, it's something which is mainstreamed across all policy measures that are implemented at the government level and at the policy level in general in Italy. It's really a cross-cutting issues across all the sectors of intervention. So this approach is at the core of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, which is, you all know, a massive scheme that was approved in response to the pandemic and to respond to the urgent need of fostering a strong recovery after the pandemic. So the plan consists of a number of investment reforms. It is based on an approach which is both investment and also reforms, and then is supported by a relevant allocation of funds exceeding 200 billion euro, and 40% of these funds. This is related to what I was saying before in relation to how important is the fight against climate change. Of course, 40% of these funds will be allocated to reforms and investment aimed at supporting the ecological transition. So this scheme takes place, it's not only, as you all know, it's not only an Italian initiative. This scheme takes place in the framework of the gigantic effort that has been undertaken by the European Union on recovery and resilience after the pandemic, in response to the pandemic. Italy and the EU are determined, of course, to be front runners of the green transition, but we cannot face it alone. This is not something that only Europe can face it alone. As a global issue, this has to be tackled, of course, with a global approach. And this, in this respect, China is, of course, a fundamental partner in this journey, as it is one of the major economies at the global level. It's a fundamental area of cooperation between Italy and China that has also led to the very successful outcome of the G20 Italian presidency, and in particular the G20 summit that took place in Rome at the end of last October. I was there also because I was dealing with this issue when I was my former life in Rome. I was the head of the G20 unit at the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So in China, there are a number of Italian companies that are champions of the energy transition. Every day they offer, with their research and investment, a primary contribution in the fight against climate change. Some of them are here today and will take the floor to provide an overview of their initiatives. China energy transition on a broader scale will be fundamental not only for China itself, for the sustainable development of China, but also for the global efforts to reach climate neutrality. And this process is something that needs to be taken in full consideration, of course, by all companies operating in this market. And Carlo, I welcome really this initiative, the initiative you have taken to host this seminar as an opportunity to deepen this topic. Thank you so much, and many greetings to you all.
Thank you, Marco. It's a great pleasure to have you here and to give us the kickoff of the work, especially because, like you just mentioned, Italy and Europe, they are leader in what China needs in order to succeed in the carbon neutrality transformation. And I would like now to give the floor to a friend. At the moment, Marco Midolo is based in Beijing. Now we pass the word to Dr. Marco Bettin, based in Milan, and the COO of the Fondazione Italia Cina, because we want also to have a view from the European side, from Italy's side. And especially Marco is an old China hand. He was in China for over 20 years, and now is the COO of the Italian China Foundation, which is one of the preeminent associations which link China and Italy. And we also thanking him to be here, but as well also to support this initiative. Please, Marco, the floor is yours. Please remember to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carlo, for inviting me to attend this important webinar and also for your kind introduction. I'll take the chance also to say hello to all the friends and also to Mr. Midolo from the Italian Embassy. Yes, it is, of course, a carbon neutrality, and generally speaking, the environmental protection is a very hot topic. Is a topic not only is affecting everybody's life for the time being, but recently is even more hot, considering also what is going to happen in Ukraine and Russia. So this is also something that we are facing. We are talking. You say that I'm in Europe right now. We are facing directly the consequences about a policy that has been done up to now for the energy consumption. Say that, of course, as Mr. Midolo also say, Italy and China has always had a very good relationship, also about the sector of environmental protection. And I do believe that these opportunities, this relationship will be even more wider for the next years. As Italy-China Foundation, we also have put an eye, of course, in this sector. And a couple of years ago, we also set a working group, environmental protection working group, and we have some members also working in China. And we liaise also. We spoke about Europe. We liaise also with the European Chamber of Commerce that you know very well, Carlo, and because I know that also the European Chamber is deepening this problem. Going back to carbon neutrality, you say, well, before China set a clear goal to reach carbon peak in 2030 and reach carbon neutrality in 2060. This is, of course, a very ambitious target, considering that up to now, as far as I know, 85% of China energy consumption relies on fossil fuels, and it is increasing also, as we say, because the peak should be reached in 2030. So it is a huge challenge, not only for China, of course, but we are talking about Italy and China. So we are deepening what is going on in China. Is a huge challenge. And if we look at just to provide a picture of what is going on in China, what are the difference or the peculiarity of this Chinese pursuit to environmental protection environment, I would list 5 main reasons that are complying with this challenge. First of all, China energy consumption and CO2 emissions continue to increase, while its carbon peak has not been reached yet, as we said before. Second, carbon emission reduction in China is a very arduous process, as the transition period followed for the country to transition from its carbon peak to carbon neutrality is shorter than some other developed countries. So also all the process must be speed up. Third, China remains reliant on high carbon fossil energy. As we said before, 85% of China energy consumption is still fossil fuels. And the high energy consumption, they have a high energy consumption and a low energy utilization efficiency. This is also another topic. Fourth, China low level of economic development compared with those of EU and US or all the developed countries make it relatively weak to withstand economic risks. Okay, this is also, we have seen recently that if I don't remember that last year, there was a sudden stop of energy carbon production, and then this affected heavily also the industry production. And last reason, China low carbon and zero carbon technology are not mature yet. We say in China, of course, this is a situation also that must be improved throughout the world. But in China, especially in some areas, in some sectors, I believe it is quite a big issue. So altogether, this reason, I believe that let us understand what is the path China needs to walk in order to reach this ambitious target. And from one side, we can understand how difficult it might be. And on the other side, in any case, these open the room also to international collaboration and cooperation. And I do believe that it is also today's target of the webinar. So the possibility also to collaborate at international level put also Italy as a forerunner for the relationship with China. We as Italy-China Foundation, we are ready, of course, to partner to everybody in order to improve and to develop any project between Italy and China. We are at disposal. We and our members are at disposal for everything. And I believe the Italian government has we have just listened to from Mr. Midolo is doing very well, and the particular moment we are living now, I think, is a big chance for us. Thank you very much again, and I wish a fantastic webinar.
Thank you, Marco. It's really interesting what you just said. If you can imagine that China is aiming to convert 660 gigawatt of energy, you tell me, oh, Carlo, what is this number? This number is exactly the 1 year of energy consumption in Europe, all Europe together. So that said, now I would like to give the floor to a good friend of mine. I'm really pleased to see him. Thank you, Matteo Tanteri, that he could join us. I know, fresh out of quarantine, among other things, Chairman and CEO of Snam China since 2019, Vice President of the Italian Chamber of China in China. Thank you so much also to the Italian Chamber in China to help us to organize here. We have two VP, Matteo and Gaetano Cantalupo, and as well I know the President Bazzoni is online with us, and the engineer Minervini of Ansaldo Brena. Great cooperation that we Ansaldo Energia, great cooperation today in the Italian European community here in this webinar. So Matteo, thank you so much. Let me understand now that you are an expert of this sector. Which one is the state of art?
Thank you very much, Carlo. So I'm here today. I think it's a very useful webinar. I would like to try to answer two questions that I always receive from people that is not based in China. So the two questions I usually receive is how serious is China on energy transition, and what are the key opportunities for Italian companies? So when we go to the where it is now, China and this energy transition, how serious they are, I think that we need to start a bit from the beginning. So China is not different from other countries. I mean, they're also in the phase where they're like big change ongoing. So they share with the other countries the need to reinvent themselves and to plan and to implement this energy transition. That, has already been said, it's even more complex here than in other countries, because the country is still experiencing a high GDP growth, and also the starting point for the current energy mix is a bit more complex than the one we are used in Europe, because coal is still 60% of the energy mix. The key day, the starting point for this story is the 22nd of September in 2020, when President Xi, in a speech at the United Nations, announced for the first time the pledge to reach the peak of the emission by 2030 and full decarbonization by 2060. What we read in the newspaper, also in the comments here in China, is that this announcement was a kind of sudden announcement. So it took everyone a bit by surprise, even people that were working at the 5-year plan that was supposed to be released 6 months later than that day, and that has to integrate that target into a scenario that has already been defined. I think that this sudden announcement has also can also explain what happened next. So I mean, we've been waiting for so long for the new 5-year plan that was just released last week. So we have to wait one year. But also last summer, it was a complex moment for energy in China. It was mentioned that there has been some energy shock. There was rationing in some countries. Something that is always mentioned in Europe is that China is still building power generation using coal. But to be honest, I think that I usually answer when I'm asked if China is serious about energy transition, my answer is always yes. I think that for sure China is working and is going to work on energy transition seriously. For sure, they will join forces with the other part of the world. China alone today is responsible for 28% of the global CO2 emission. Of course, China will do that in a pragmatic way, in a rational way. So that there will be no risk to this energy transition will not be a risk for the GDP growth. So that's the usual trade-off everyone has, but here in China, this will be especially important. So why I'm so convinced and so comfortable with this energy transition in China? I think something that we can see also in our real life. So first of all, I think everyone, so all the people living in China, they want to for energy transition to happen. So they take care about blue sky, they take care about the quality of life, quality of food, quality of water. And this sensitivity is much more important here than in Italy, for example. If you look at the quality of air in Milan, usually now in the past months, is always worse than the quality of air we have in Beijing. That was impossible 5 years ago, but no one is talking about the quality of air in Milan, while everyone is talking about the quality of air in Beijing. So we all wake up every morning with the app monitoring this. Then I can confirm that the state-owned companies, so energy state-owned company, are already working on this. CNPC, a big oil and gas company, has a partnership with CATL, that is the largest producer of battery. Sinopec is very active on H2. And then we saw that also provinces are now very active on this. So, I mean, one of the reasons for the rationing of energy last year was that provinces were too proactive on the monitoring of the emission and also about energy intensity. So having said that, and then reassuring our, let's say, entrepreneur that for sure energy transition will happen in China. What are the opportunities? I read there is a very famous report by Goldman Sachs called Carbonomics, and they made a study about China, and they calculate that China will need 16 trillion of investment to reach decarbonization by 2060. So 5.5 trillion for renewables, 0.5 for nuclear, 2.1 for electric networks. Then we have batteries. So I think that this is just this figure represent which are the opportunities. In the medium to short term, I see three main areas. One is gas. So gas consumption doubled in the past 5 years. It's like every 2 years, China consume more gas, the same consumption as the whole Italy. So this will mean a new investment for all the infrastructure, for the, let's say, for valves, compressor station, for turbines. Will mean new investment for appliances for the gas consumption at home, so like the monitoring system, certification. So, and one area that we see interesting also for my company, for Snam, is energy storage and underground energy storage. This was also one of the key points of the new 5-year plan. China is planning to add to increase a lot, so to add 55 BCM of energy underground gas storage capacity. This is important also for Europe, because the more China increases its storage capacity, the less we will have a competition for gas in winter. So right now, China and Europe compete for the same gas in winter. And this is also one of the reasons why the price of gas is so high in winter time, apart from the current, what's going on in Ukraine right now. The second area where to focus is for sure is renewables. China is the first country in the world who reached 1,000 gigawatts of renewables. This is an area where China is already a bit more independent. So they are, let's say, world champions for wind, for solar panels. We all know that, but this will still be an area of improvement. And one area that is very interesting for Italian companies, I think, is the improvement, and this has been mentioned also by Mr. Bettin, the improvement of processes, industrial processes. So there are companies already here in Italy, in China, working on how to produce like steel in a more efficient way, how to produce paper, how to produce glass in a more efficient way. This can also include hydrogen, but it's let's say it's a way to change the energy intensity of some industrial processes, and this will be one of the key drivers here in China. In the long term, the two other areas are hydrogen, as I mentioned already, and the CC, carbon capture storage, so the way to capture CO2 that is already emitted, and this is very important for a country like China, who has 60% of coal in the energy mix. So this is my suggestion. Of course, as you, Carlo, know very well, anyway, it's important to be here in China. So for everyone, for every company and every, I said Italian companies because, most of us are Italian, but I know you have clients everywhere, and also this webinar, we see a lot of people from everywhere. Right now, it's important to be in China. So if you want to attend and to be part of this energy transition race, you have to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matteo. Bravo. Thank you to give us the state of art. One thing that I'm always surprised about China, when I'm discussing Europe about this, you just mentioned the new 5-year plan on energy, okay? And in the energy company, I asked them, did you read it? Because China just put this on papers, what they're going to do. So if you are interested to invest and to be part of this, you should be in China, but also you should know where they want to go. Do you have any special comment about this newly published plan?
The plan was published 1 week ago, so on last Tuesday, and then the day after, they also published the first comprehensive plan on hydrogen. To be honest, I think the plan was, it seems to me a bit conservative. So it's a very huge document, so you need some time to read, but it's usually more conservative than what they usually have in mind. I think they're keeping some flexibility also to make sure that there is room for adjustment in case of also energy shock or in case of additional targets they want to achieve. There are some interesting points anyway. So it's been mentioned before that right now only 16% of energy mix is from non-fossil fuels, so for everything that is renewable. So right now 84% is fossil fuel in the energy mix. This will go down to 80% in 4 years. And there will be a big increase, especially in the non-fossil energy power generation. So the power generation produced by renewables will increase from 32% to 39%. They are still betting a lot on gas, meaning gas production, but also new pipelines. And I mentioned before also gas storage capacity. So right now, China only can cover with gas reserve, underground gas storage reserve, only 5% of its demand. In Italy, this is 25%. This is also one of the reasons why we are so confident about approaching winter time. This is something relevant for them, so they move this target from 5% to 13%. It's an important target. I'm very curious to see how they can reach in only 3-4 years. So that's still significant. Overall, they plan, they have specific target for 5 areas, and they cover 14 items. Some of them are pretty new. So, for example, there is one target for new key technological breakthrough areas. So they plan to have by 2050 at least 50 breakthrough areas for new technology. There are targets for energy efficiency, for energy transition. I think it's, as you said, it's pretty important to have this in mind. Again, the 5-year plan, I think especially this 5-year plan is more important to give a guidance of where the country is going rather than having specific target as it was in the past. Anyway, if you look at this, you still see that there are some interesting parts and some numbers are really impressive.
Thank you, Matteo, to give us the practice used now in China and where China is going on the energy sector. And also thank you because I know you as Snam are also member of the Advisory Council of the European Chamber, giving direction also to the European Chamber in this important sector. Thank you so much for your commitment. Maybe if later on you can stay, we will have a Q&A session and we will open the floor to our numerous attendees. And now I would like to give the floor to Mandy Du, because we discuss about the legal framework in order to understand which one are regulatory and practical measures to achieve the carbon neutrality in China. Mandy Du is a senior associate of D'Andrea and Partners Legal Counsel here in Shanghai. She has over 10-year experience working specifically in environment and energy law. So I'm really interested to know what you have to share with us today. Thank you so much for being here. Please, Mandy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carlo. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. First, let me share my screen. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mandy from the Partners Legal Counsel. Today, I'm going to briefly talk about what are the regulatory and the practical measures to achieve the carbon neutrality in China. Carbon neutrality is actually a really hot topic in the past couple of years in China. When we are talking about carbon neutrality, it actually means like a balance of carbon emissions that is generated from the industrial activities or agricultural or human activities or even our human waste with the carbon removals that's through like the planting trees or use the energy or use the clean energy. As Mr. Marco Bettin has mentioned that the Chinese government has actually set up a very ambitious carbon neutrality goals. It has announced that by 2030, the Chinese society will reach the carbon emission peak, and that by 2060, the Chinese society will reach the carbon neutrality. And yes, if we look at the proportion of the clean energy consumption to the total energy, we can tell that actually the current China still heavily relies on the fossil fuels, and the clean energy is actually a really small portion in terms of the total energy consumption. So we all know that the Chinese government is quite good at making like 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 20 years plan, what the Chinese government will do in terms of this plan and in terms of this goal. The Chinese government has proposed a 1+N mode. One means the central government, who will be responsible for mapping the top layer designs of all the fundamental policies and also all the fundamental directions. And the N, on the other hand, will represent for the different sectors that will contribute to work together and to contribute to achieving such goals. And for example, from the energy perspective, industrial, transport, and environmental perspective. So if we see like last year, when the central government issued 2 fundamental guidelines regarding the carbon peaking or carbon neutrality, it was followed by a lot of the implementation plans proposed by different sectors, by different ministries, by different commissions. For example, the Ministry of Industry and Information decided to formulate and revise over 100 industrial standards in order to accelerate the progress of carbon neutrality. And the National Development and the Reform Commission, on the other hand, together with the other commissions, they plan to promote the green consumption mechanism throughout the Chinese society, also in order to accelerate the progress. So if we look at all the policies, that it's really very generic measures that focus on like the use of new energy, the utilization of the existing energy, like the pollution control, or even like the construction of the green society. What are the practical measures that may impact our companies or impact our people who already live in China? Actually, one of the critical measures is carbon emission trading, which my colleague Tina will discuss in his presentation later, so I will not repeat it here. And here I would like to discuss 2 examples. One is regarding the foreign investment area. If we look at the catalog of encouraged foreign investment and the catalog of negative list, we can see that the Chinese government is actually keep encouraging foreign investors to invest in the environmental friendly industries. For example, the very hot, very popular new energy vehicles and equipment industry, and also for some high technology service companies, like the clean production technology, recycle of the waste technology, and also the soil remediation technology. Let's take like the new energy vehicles and equivalent industry, for example. In the previous time, actually, the foreign equity was limited at 50% for the JV or under the vehicle manufacturing industry. And in 2018, such limits has been removed for the new energy vehicle manufacturing industry. And starting from this year, such limits of the foreign equities for the entire vehicle manufacturing industry has been fully removed, which means that the foreign investors who are interested in the vehicle manufacturing industry in China, they enjoy a more flexible and more free investment environment. And also, if any foreign investors can bring high technology, especially for the like new energy vehicles or green energy vehicles, it is more likely to enjoy the incentives or beneficiaries that provided by the Chinese government. A second example is about the environmental information transparency. Actually, the Chinese government has requested certain companies to publish their environmental information, and the scope of such companies has expanded, or let's say enlarged, for the couple years. And starting from this year, a lot of companies will be subjected to compulsory environmental information disclosure. For example, the key pollutant discharging entities and the compulsory clean production entities, and also listed for certain listed companies and the subsidiaries which are subject to the serious environmental penalty. For example, if I am a subsidiary of a listed company and I received the monetary fines over like 100,000 RMB last year, starting from this year, I have to publish my environmental information. For example, like all the licensing, all the permits, all the pollution prevention facilities. This information on public websites for 3 years. So the mechanism is like the local EEP will collect and publish the list of companies that has to publish its environmental information on his website, and the companies that are included in the list has to publish its environmental information on its website and also through the public channel. We believe that such measures, on one hand, aims to deter the environmental violations for all the existing companies, and on the other hand, also it is also good to accelerate the progress of carbon neutrality, because it will assist to supervise the compliance of all the listed companies and also all the heavy polluted companies to public supervision. So this is pretty much what I would like to share today. And let's say the environmental compliance and carbon neutrality is quite a huge topic. So if you are interested in any specific questions or specific areas, feel free to let us know after the meeting. Carlos, thank you.
Thank you, Mandy, to give us this general legal framework of the environmental law that is close and behind the carbon neutrality. And I was also curious to see that the new energy vehicle has encouraged investments in this changes. And after we will have also Mr. Gaetano Cantalupo, CEO of Snam China, that he will speak exactly about e-mobility in China to see if it's a myth or is a fact. Thank you so much, Mandy. We will discuss later about in the Q&A session. Now I want to give the floor to our Nikita Polichuk, because in last July in 2021, we start to read about the carbon emission rights trading here in China and how to tackle this change in China. I know that in Europe and US, we are ready something. Which one is the state of art here in China? Nikita, he is a graduate in one of the top university in the UK, and he also has an M&A finance degree here in Fudan University. And I'm pleased to say that he passed also the CFA level 3 exam. So Nikita, tell us how it's going with your clients discussing about emission rights trading in China.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carlo, for the introduction. Please allow me to share my presentation first. Okay. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Nikita.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you once again, Carlo, for the introduction. And good afternoon, dear speakers, dear panelists, and of course, our viewers. In today's speech, I would like to touch upon a very, interesting topic, as Carlo mentioned, which is essentially the carbon emission rights trading in China to tackle the climate change. I will go briefly over what is essentially an emissions trading scheme and how it has been implemented in China so far. And mostly I will focus on the last year where indeed it was the first year where it was actually officially launched, and there have been some interesting developments in this market. And of course, I will offer some of our observations and comments for the future development of this very interesting, let's say, industry. So first off, what is an emissions trading? It is a market-based approach for controlling pollution. How? Essentially, it provides incentives for reducing the emissions of pollutants. Carbon emission trading, so for example, for carbon dioxide, but also other greenhouse gases have been introduced in China, in the European Union, and many other countries to tackle the climate change problem. Generally speaking, usually an authority, let's say a certain part of the governmental body, will allocate or sell a limited number of permits, essentially quotas, that will allow a pollutant, so a company which pollutes the environment by its production, to discharge a specific quantity of this specific pollutant. In our case, we're talking about the carbon dioxide. And indeed, those polluters are required to hold permits in amount equal to their emissions. And those who would like to, let's say, pollute more because they need, let's say they need to produce more, they can buy these permits from others who are willing to sell. And of course, emissions trading is basically a type of, let's say, flexible environmental regulation that would allow organizations and markets to decide how to best meet the policy targets, rather than let's say, the authorities saying, putting the exact limits on the amounts of the carbon dioxide produced by everybody. So the national carbon trading scheme is basically, like I mentioned, intensity-based trading scheme for carbon dioxide in China, and it started operating in 2021, even though there have been talks about it for more than a decade. Essentially, China gained a lot of experience in drafting and implementing its ETS scheme from the United Nations Framework Convention. And essentially, China's emission trading scheme creates a carbon market where emitters can buy and sell these so-called emission credits. And this way, China can limit emissions. And at the same time, it will allow economic freedom for emitters to reduce emissions or purchase emission based on their preference and needs from other emitters. And this program, this scheme, it is run by the Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China. And of course, eventually, it plans to limit emissions from China's top carbon dioxide industries, and then, cover essentially the whole country and most of the industries. And yes, like I mentioned, in fact, the first notion of the program was introduced maybe more than a decade ago in China, but there have been certain challenges in its implementation. So last year was actually the first year to see, this trading scheme in action. And here you can see actually a little bit of numbers in the graph. And of course, it's a well-known fact about currently China emissions, all emissions, including all the pollutants, exceed all developed nations combined. That's the reason for introducing this intensive incentive scheme to reduce the climate change, the effects. And let's talk about a little bit of how it was actually implemented last year, this emission trading scheme. So from the 1st of January of last year, the first cycle of this national carbon market was officially launched in China. In 2021, it started with essentially power plants, and but those power plants, which are targeted, cover roughly 40% of China's emissions and 15% of world emissions. So these are huge numbers. Roughly 2,230 key greenhouse gas emission companies across the country were assigned these quotas. And actually, it's interesting, these quotas were actually given out for free the first time. So the issuance of these carbon emission rights was for free, as let's say it is a trial period, and the companies were allowed to essentially acquire it from the government for free. And the authorities actually manage the list of greenhouse gas emission companies and include companies that meet certain criteria, of course, such as the power plants, which I mentioned, but also those which have annual greenhouse gas emissions reaching the equivalent of 26,000 tons of carbon dioxide. I mean, these are some astonishing numbers of pollution. So, of course, these industries will be challenged first by the government, and only then it will, let's say, go spread across the whole country to other less polluting industries. And let's talk a little bit about actually our comments and how we see the future development of this trading scheme. Indeed, this carbon market trading system has a lot of potential, and it will likely cover more industries in the future. And we expect that actually steel and petrochemical producers will likely be more actively involved in the coming years in this market. It's interesting to notice that actually the market price per ton of the CO2, of the carbon dioxide, was a bit less than 50 RMB, which is far less than the price of the same quantity in the European Union or the United Kingdom emission trading scheme. And of course, naturally, both volumes and prices spiked by the end of the year, and increased maybe 56 RMB per ton when the compliance period actually came about, and those industries had to report, their results for the year. And we also believe that actually the financial institutions soon, and also the institutional investors, will likely be allowed to join the trading system to generate sufficient liquidity, trading volumes, and provide services to businesses to increase trading beyond just the spot market, but also enter into the forward markets to manage, and to increase the efficiency of the carbon emission trading scheme in China. And essentially, that is all for my today's brief on this very interesting and ambitious plan in China. Thank you very much for listening. And of course, if there are any questions or comments, please feel free to address me directly in the Q&A session, or just drop me a message later on. Thank you. Carlo?
Thank you, Nikita. I have a couple of questions for you on this topic, but sure. I will keep it for me later on for the Q&A session, if you don't mind, because now we have a great pleasure to have among us Mrs. Eleonora Pessina, Pirelli Group Sustainability and Diversity Officer, and directly from Milan. Thank you so much to take time to be with us today, and especially to explain Pirelli and the road to carbon neutrality. I know that Mr. Tronchetti Provera, Mr. Giuliano Menassi here, like a karma, always speaking about the mission of Pirelli to go into the carbon neutrality. Please enlighten us. Thank you so much.
Really very much. Thank you really very much for inviting us, for inviting me, and really a pleasure. And I'm proud of being here with you today on this very important topic at global level, where for sure China will play a great, if perhaps the greatest role for all of us in the future. And I think that the bases of this activity have been really strongly set, as it is typical for China. I would like to ask if it is possible to share the presentation so that we can start.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Okay, so first of our slide, after the cover, this is just a snapshot of what who Pirelli is, so at a glance with the 2021 data. As you can see, we are positioned substantially on a high value market, and we have to say also the only one tire company in the world that produces only for consumer, and so only consumer tires like car tires and two wheels. So motorcycle, cycling, and car tires, with the highest percentage in terms of high value, with 150 years of heritage. And sorry, because this year was our 150 years of existence, and this is we are very proud of this because it gives also the idea and the perception of the solidity of the culture of this company, with an iconic brand that is globally recognized, also thanks to the fact that we are the #1 in terms of market share in prestige car manufacturers, and we are also exclusive F1 suppliers. We have an important part of our revenues coming from the replacement channel, but also, of course, from the original equipment, which always is important in terms of driving innovation in the automotive market, and thus also for our tires. Here you see our revenues by region, with an important ratio as far as APAC is concerned, and the production capacity that sees 18 plants in 12 countries, but we are present in terms of footprint also in 160 countries with the commercial activities. So going the following slide, a very quick snapshot of our positioning in terms of sustainability as a whole. And you can see here that there is a leadership that has been recognized by the most prestigious indexes in the world. And what is important here to say is that a focal part of these indexes evaluation is focused on carbon management. So it is definitely fundamental for a multinational company being present in all the world, and therefore, of course, primarily also present in China, to have a very strong performance in terms of carbon emission reduction along the value chain. That's competitive matter. That's attract investors, and that responds to the stakeholders' pressures, as well as it grants clients orders, because they want as much as possible the reduction of the life cycle assessment of our products. We think we have some distinctive factors that rely on a hardware of adoption of the most demanding environmental, social, and governance standards, and the fact of offering innovative solutions, which again is strongly related to the capability of offer solutions that are able to reduce the impact on the environment, and specifically in terms of CO2 emission. And that's not the case that Pirelli was the first company in the world producing the first Forest Stewardship Council labeled tire last year, after years of work, because FSC was created for paper, for wood, and not for natural rubber. So you can imagine how much it was difficult, but the attention to innovation also brings new ideas and the capability to reach these targets that have been importantly appreciated by customers. And of course, a comprehensive corporate positioning, because we, even though carbon emissions are key, are focused, and strategies are linked to this, you have never to forget that the positioning has to be very strong in terms of policies, also from a social and governance aspect. And when we set targets, probably another factor that we consider distinctive, we try to be tangible. We try to set targets that are group wide. So when we decide in Italy for a new target, that applies also, of course, to China, as well as to US, as well as to all European countries and South America. And we want to be challenging and realistic. So not saying I will do this in 50 years as a company, but give the opportunity to stakeholders to measure within a realistic timeline our performances. If we go now to the core, after having given a snapshot of the positioning, so the following slide, you can see here our decarbonization strategy that is in line with the Paris Agreement goals. Of course, first of all, I try to indicate why you see here more phases. More phases because when we talk about decarbonization, we have not only to consider our direct emissions in the manufacturing area, but we have to consider all the value chain. So first of all, we have the raw materials scope that is the one of procurement in the value chain. And raw materials are by far the most emitting, let me say, in terms of CO2 emissions, part of our supply chain. Then we have the manufacturing phase, where we have indirect and scope 1 are called the scope 1 and 2 emissions. So the emissions coming from the energy that we procure and the emission coming directly produced by us. Then we have the logistic phase that, as you can see here, has a very, very low level of impact on the whole carbon footprint of our product. And we have a huge impact in the use phase that is the one related to rolling resistance of the tires. So coming then at the end of life with a very low again impact. So according to Paris Agreement, the direct responsibility to diminish the emissions, and that is also the base of the so-called science-based target, is linked to the scope 3 emissions from raw materials from the supply chain, and to the scope 1 and 2, that is the one of manufacturing. And here we indeed have a science-based target that is in line with well below 2%, that has already been achieved in 2021, even though the target was expected to be reached at the beginning by 2025. That's why we asked an increase of this target just recently to the science-based target. When coming to the specific targets that we have for all the group, and that's also for China, is for manufacturing to come to 100% electricity from renewables procured, and to come by 2025, and to arrive to carbon neutrality of our factories by 2030. Of course, this is something definitely challenging, and we can count, however, from our side, in terms of activities in our plants, we can count on important activities in terms of energy efficiency. Indeed, we are focusing in waste heat recovery, electrical equipment efficiency, energy generation, and conversion efficiency. But at the same time, also improvement of the overall efficiency, thanks to innovative materials, for example, and innovative technologies, innovative processes that create a cycle time reduction within the processes. And also, last but not least, the growth of energy saving and efficiency awareness in our factories. But China is also very important for us in terms of contribution when coming to the scope 3 in the use phase of tires. As we said, the use phase sees the carbon emissions that are not directly produced by the product of Pirelli, but indirectly produced by because are produced by the car. And the efficiency, the energy efficiency of the tire is very, very important in order to have the car emit less CO2 emissions. Why this? Because the rolling resistance of the tire is something that can impact on the use of a fuel or electricity in terms of batteries and so on of the car. So the less the rolling resistance is, the more is the impact in terms of efficiency in the energy by the car, or by the energy efficiency of the batteries or the fuel that is consumed. And there is linked the CO2 emission. So we have set also important targets in the abatement of rolling resistance, also always preserving, of course, the safety of the product, because sometimes rolling resistance from an engineeristic point of view is orthogonal compared to the safety performance of the tire. So we succeeded in diminishing more and more rolling resistance, and we have set important targets for 2025. That is having rolling resistance levels that are in line with the highest efficiency levels of the European regulation all over the world. And this means having 70% of our products new labeled in 2025 that are either A or B labeled according to European legislation, rolling resistance parameters, and energy efficiency. And what I can say is that as of today, around half of the product, of the new product that we are producing in China is already in line with the levels expected by A or B levels of the European level, which is a great data. At the same time, the contribution that we can give in terms of product to the Chinese strategy is the one related to supplying new mobility, and thus electric cars. And indeed, what I can say is that this is definitely also an opportunity. So having an attitude of innovation from this point of view, and being positioned in the high segment of the market has given us the opportunity to offer products that led us to have, and importantly with local producers in China, that led us to grow by 220% our production of tires for the electric mobility in 1 year, starting from a double digit already existing in 2020 figure. So that's an important opportunity that we have in the Chinese market from this point of view, and that's an important challenge to satisfy the Chinese market from this point of view. What we see that will be again a challenge for us is the capability to reach this 100% renewable certified electricity in by 2025, and then to diminish as much as possible the emissions that come from thermal energy. Because if we want to go to carbon neutrality, and for us carbon neutrality is not a simple offset, it's a matter of removal, then we really have to diminish as much as possible the total emissions of our company. And so also total emissions coming not only from electricity, but also from the thermal energy are a challenge for us also in China. Particularly because, but in this case I have to say it's not just a matter of China, it's a matter of the world, particularly because when you do your best efforts in terms of energy efficiency, then you reach your optimum. And then you still need the thermal energy. And then there's no other way to have thermal energy substituted with renewable thermal fuels and not being obliged to use fossil fuels. But this, as I was saying, is not just a matter of China, it's a matter of Europe, it's a matter of US, it's a matter of the world. The moment is still not mature enough to allow to really be sure that by 2030 we will be able to use energies that are clean instead of fuels that are fossil. So what we really hope is that there is an acceleration at worldwide level, not only in the let me say availability of these resources, but also in the infrastructures that allow these resources to be delivered to the companies, so that in addition to buying renewable electricity, we are also able to buy biofuels enough to and at sustainable cost in order to drive our factories. Of course, if this is not possible, this means that it will be an additional cost in terms of carbon removal for the companies. So we are in this challenge. We go on looking forward, and for sure we hope that an acceleration also in the maturity of the Chinese market is reached, because from this point of view, the footprint of the Chinese evolution on our group footprint will bring really important results. So I think that the last slide, of course, remains with you. These are some achievements that we reached, but I don't know whether there is still time for me or not in order to go through this.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
I'm taking note for the question, so
okay.
Please go ahead.
Thank you really very much. Okay, this is just to give a snapshot from, let me say, a consolidated group point of view of which were the key results. You remember I said that we want to be tangible as much as possible, and thus we talk to the market and to stakeholders through our achievements in terms of number as much as possible. Of course, primarily in our companies all over the world is safety of our people. That's the key element with which we start any and every presentation. And here, indeed, you see the performance that we had in 2021, that is very low in terms of accident frequency index, and that wants to go towards 2025 with having a substantial abatement further in terms of accident frequency index. Of course, let's always remember that the target has to be and cannot be otherwise 0 accidents at work. In terms of product eco and safety performance that we identify with, from the eco side, the rolling resistance, as I said before, the reduction. And on the other side, the one of safety, because there's no tire that can only live of eco performance. It has to be, of course, balanced with safety. We also set important targets with reference to A and B, highest levels of European legislation for performance on wet grip, that is that WG, A or B. And we have to say that we had an important improvement in 2021 against 2020, because 49% of our group products are in line as of today in terms of values with the highest levels of energy efficiency according to the European legislation parameters. And so plus 10% in 1 year. And we want to reach, as said before, more than 70% in 2025. With reference to wet grip, this has always been our DNA, because we are strongly positioning on performance of our tires, and indeed we are already at a very high level in 2021 and 2020, and we want to reach more than 90% in terms of our new IP labeled product, in line with the parameters of the European legislation for wet grip. And materials innovation, this is fundamental along, as I said, the life cycle for reducing the CO2 footprint, total footprint of the life cycle of our tires. Materials are key because they are able, from one side, to reduce emissions if they are renewable and not coming from fossils, first of all, by themselves. And then renewable materials and innovation in these materials is also able to make efficiency in the processes and in the transformation cost also of our product in the production phase, and also in the emissions, because the capability to work some of these materials in the process in the most innovative way can bring to the reduction of the emissions related to the production. But at the same time are also key in order to diminish the rolling resistance of the tires when they are in use. And also are fundamental when talking about the new mobility, because certain grade of materials and of renewable materials are fundamental when coming to new tires for the new electrical mobility. And here again, we have important targets, and we already developed a tire that last year was supplied to Volvo for their model, and that was made of a 94% materials not coming from fossils. And this is something very important because it is not just an idea, it is not just a concept, it is something physical that has been supplied to an OE, of course, for a presentation, but it is something physical, and it gives the idea of how much we invest in this innovation in order to reach as much as possible results in terms of increasing of renewable materials and also of recycled materials. The point for recycled materials that also circular economy has an important impact in terms of emission reduction. The point of on recycled is that the level of quality of recycled materials have to reach a certain level before being Pirelli able to use these materials in its high-performance tires. Because it's a matter really of quality, and we can never compromise on quality of materials. It's not just an excuse. They are secondary materials, so they cannot compromise in any way safety of our tires. And when coming to high performance, high speed tires, of course, there's no compromise. This is why we are working very with very important effort in joint development of new ways of recovering materials to grant the necessary quality that is needed to enter these materials into our receipt, considering high performance tires. And of course, towards decarbonization of the value chain, what will be definitely important is to work not only on our plants, as we said, with renewable electricity and capability to substitute as quickest as possible fossil fuels for thermal energy with renewable ones, but also the capability to work on the supply chain. Because the supply chain, once we will reach our carbon neutrality of our factories and our 100% renewable electricity in 2025, let me say, the relative weight of the supply chain impact on our emissions in terms of scope 1, 2, and 3 will become enormous. And of course, the difficulty is there because it's not under our direct control, because it is our supply chain. And what we can do is to start, of course, elaborate innovations that, first of all, are on renewable materials that are not coming from fossils, because this implies generally that there is a low total emission connected to the materials that have been produced. But at the same time, we need to engage with our suppliers, first of all, the ones on materials, to grant that they also take the same engagement that we take. And this is the way at the end it will happen, because if you see our clients now tell us, okay, you please give me the product that is clean from this point of view, from the point of view of energy emissions. And this is on our responsibility. Of course, to give it clean, we are not able from a sustainable point of view, pay also for the supply chain that has to give us the same clean material so that we can use it in our factories. So it's a matter, at the end, it will is becoming a matter of competition, and it's becoming a matter of cascading of these requests that at the end has to impact importantly the supply chain. That's why also the culture of a country and of a sector. And these activities, like the ones you're doing to spread this culture, are definitely fundamental to tailor the capability from our side as suppliers of our clients, count on a more mature supply chain. On the other side, also for us to ask to the supply chain for the importance for them to diminish their carbon emissions. That's okay for me, if there is any question.
Thank you, Eleonora. Being the sole provider of the fastest car in the world make you try also to arrive first in the race of carbon neutrality. Thank you for your exhaustive, for the comprehensive presentation. of Pirelli cultural things and road to carbon neutrality. I will keep my question for the Q&A session, if you don't mind, and I will give the floor to the next speaker, if that's fine for you. Okay?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Once again, thank you for being here. I know that you have long experience in the Pirelli for many, many years, arriving to present this today. Thank you. I would like to give the floor now to another great friend of our law firm, the engineer Gaetano Cantalupo, CEO of Comau China. Since a couple of years, Gaetano joined the FCA Group, now Stellantis, in 2010 as a head of China project, and later on he became also CEO of Comau Robotics, which joined in 2020, and now is the global head of customer operation. Thank you, Gaetano. It's for us an honor to have you, one of the resisting robotic company of Europe.
Yes, yes. Difficult
Today
market. Yes.
About the Comau and mobility, and you will give us a general understanding how is going ahead China also in this. Thank you, Gaetano. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Let me share one simple presentation. Okay. I think we need to start from the beginning. Okay, I have a few slides to help myself in this conversation. First of all, let me say one point. Okay, I always very impressed when I see what Pirelli did and what is doing on this topic. No, it's very, very active and very impressive. And they are simply answer to the question that I always do to myself and to my team. So what we can do on this item, now what we can do for carbon neutrality. So actually you say we are a robotic company, we are a line builder, so we build line for our OEM. So on top of the action that we do directly to become carbon neutral for our factories, the best where we can express is to develop technology for our customer. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you a brief update on the new energy vehicle in China in terms of market. I will show you some application that we already did, and unfortunately, I cannot show you what we are doing in terms of research and development. There are several activities, several new technology we are developing in the automotive and not only, and probably will be the topic for the next webinar. I try to go pretty fast because I saw that the time is going to be short. So this is the market trend on the electrical vehicle. Let's call it new energy vehicle. So you have different kinds, so BEV, PHEV, and so on. What you can see is a growth, and that's it. And the growth slowed down a little bit on the pandemic, but is quite quietly confirmed year over year. Not only this year, I have to say that looking for our customer, we feel an important acceleration on investment in this field for mostly BEV and PHEV. Moving forward, sorry, probably I need to switch to move this. Okay, so just a view. 3 big players in China and some other that are smaller, but they are catching up the space. So our expectation is that in the future, there will be more and more company that in this moment are covering the right side of the chart, going together with the 3 big here in China. This is just a view on the battery to show you in terms of gigawatt, or say as you want, but in terms of number of battery we are going to produce in China in the next year, and just show you the projection of the importance of this segment, which is the segment that is used the most by the BEV vehicle, and by the full hybrid. So we are talking about the medium big size battery. So which is still the most important portion of the market for us in China. This is another view. Of course, in the new energy vehicle, in an EV car, there is the battery, but there is the e-motor. And again, this is another very important market and a very important area where we are developing several applications and technology, because the production of the e-motor are quite challenges, a lot of changes. The performance of the car basically is coming from here. The battery give you the autonomy, the distance, and so on, but then you need to put the power to the wheel. Basically, that's it. So we have a market that for sure is growing, already showed that it's growing, little slowdown in 2020, and I want to say an important acceleration in 2022. I receive several requests from our historical customer to anticipate in our forecast project by one, in several cases by 2 quarters, which means that we are pushing quite hard on this area. I said before, I want to present, before the video, I want to present you several applications that we already did, just to give you the flavor on what is Comau and which kind of technical solution we can realize. And of course, these are only the application that we are doing in the NEV business. As I said before, we are investing in research and development for NEV, other area of the automotive market, but we are also investing outside of the automotive market, specifically on the renewable energy and let's say hydrogen, or everything that is related to this area. I start with a video.
Changes over time, and vehicles change as well. As a systems provider leader who is always at the cutting edge and able to integrate a wide range of architectures, we know that the key to progress is having the right technologies to answer the newest requests, and EVs are the present. To know how to do something means having already done it. And we have already done it. Our one-step-ahead solutions are already producing electric vehicles and components. The right approach is a strategic and pragmatic mix between creativity, governance, quality, and consistency. And our innovative technologies are a mix of experience, competency, and innovation. We can do everything that is needed to support the growth and evolution of e-mobility now. Proud of the strength and reliability that makes us one provider for all. Know-how right now.
Yeah, the message is very clear, no? So this is what we did. The point is, we are not a company that would like to promise and so on, but it's a company that say, this is what we did, and if what we did is not fit with your needs, we will build something around. This is important in Comau, not only in China. I'm very proud to lead the team, which is the reference for the entire company on the electrification business. Now, if you break down the car in different parts, now you see what we can provide. So we will do the body, we will do the engine, the traditional engine, but the most important area is on the battery and e-driving component. I will present you different applications quickly, one by one. On the battery, we are able to provide any kind of different technology. As you know, in the car, we have a cylindrical, prismatic, and pouch. Even if, based on the market, the trend now is to remain on the cylindrical, and in some case on the prismatic. Normally, the cell are installed into what we call a module, and then the module creates the pack that is installed under the car. The pack can be a structural part of the car or can be just attached on it, depends on the OEM and so on. Of course, there are under development solutions to skip the step number 2 and go straight to the pack, or sometimes straight to the chassis, but this is different technology discussion. This is one project we develop in, the project, the layout, and the flag. So you will see a lot of projects that are developed for everyone. So not only China for China, but China for the world. So again, an important role that Comau China is playing, thanks to the fact that the NEV market in China start way in advance versus the rest of the world. So this forced us to jump on board and develop solutions that now are ready to be sold to Europe and US. Another example is a prismatic, sorry, because I cannot see the title. Again, this is another example of a battery module done for a Chinese company. I don't go into detail, but in the Q&A, if you want, I can give you any kind of answer. Of course, there are some customers that we cannot disclose in terms of name. From someone else, we can talk more abroad. Moving forward, another example of battery using the pouch technology. Yeah, this is just a video of this. So, as you see, we are talking about fully automated line. There are only very few people supporting the machine to do the production, but all the rest is using robot, conveyor, and other solution. This is a standard equipment for laser welding or for creating, packing, and so on. Another interesting video. So all the solutions you see are coming from, are designed, created, and made by us, starting from basically what the customer want to make. So they come us with the battery, say, I need to make this. Can you do this at 90 job per hour, and so on and so forth. This is an important project we did. You can see cycle time 185 job per hour. So means that we create 185 module every hour. And just for reference, you have 2 module per car. So you can understand which is the speed of the factory. Okay. And each module is formed by 800 cells. So inside this big box, there are 800 cells that are cylindrical battery, like the battery that you have in the, I don't know, in the toy of your kids. Again, this is the blue box. Basically, this is a standardization of Comau. So it's a very interesting station that offer a very huge variety of configuration, so the customer can start the production. You see a lot of this box all around the line, and this allowed the customer to modify and customize the line for future production, new model of modification, and so on. So again, do innovation to help the customer to go very quickly on the market by speeding up processes with high efficiency, but on the other side, guarantee a right level of variability, a right level of flexibility, which is the key word in our world. Moving forward, this is, before, no? 800 cells of this is the single cell into one module, and 195 modules every hour. So you can imagine the speed of this line. I write to the end. This is another example of laser welding, because of course we need to develop a new solution in order to guarantee the speed and flexibility and to guarantee the quality of the product. And the welding by laser of this cell is the only solution we are able to develop. Another important line for a customer in US. And moving forward, I go very quickly. So this is how we do the battery pack. So with different solution using the AGV from the bottom, from the side, and so on. On the e-motor, just a snapshot. The e-motor is a composition of a lot of different processes that need to be done with a high level of precision, a high level of efficiency, and unfortunately a high level of speed, because the OEM want to have the production going super fast to pay back the investment, but not only to sell car, because this is their business. In Comau, luckily, we are able to provide all the different processes that are in the construction chain for the e-motor. Last one, so once you do the e-motor, you need to test in terms of NVH, precision, and so on and so forth. And we develop a special system for a specific customer, then we standardize it to be sold to anyone to test the production line. This is the conclusion of my presentation. I said this is what we did, and you can imagine what we can do in the next coming year, starting from this point.
Thank you, Gaetano. It's a great pleasure to have you here, and thank you to share with us the image of the robots that Comau created for your clients, and to make us always believe that what you can imagine, you can really realize. This is a true example. It's a company that really make the example, like follow your vision. Thank you for that. Also for you, I have a couple of questions. I know there are also questions from our attendees. Please use the chat box to talk to our speakers. Now, and of course, please, before to give the word to Luigi, thank you also to stand for the election of the Italian Chamber of Commerce as a Vice President. It's important for the Italian business community to have a representative of an important company as Comau and an experienced manager like you with over 20 years of working in China. Thank you for that. We're going to discuss cheers later on when the results of the election will be confirmed. Speaking about the Italian Chamber of Commerce, I give the word and the floor to our engineer Luigi Minervini, which is the chair of the Energy and the Environmental Protection Working Group of the Italian Chamber of Commerce. Luigi is an engineer with many years of experience. He joined Ansaldo Energia in 2004, which is one of the most important European energy companies. And he arrived in China in 2015, where he is the chairman of Ansaldo Gas Turbine Technology, which is the JV of Ansaldo and Shanghai Electric, to do great things together. Please, Luigi, tell us about the activities of the working group, and also what you are doing here with Ansaldo Energia. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlo, for the introduction. Thanks for inviting, and good afternoon to all our panelists and our guests. So let me share my presentation with you. Since we are running out of time, just let's go straight to the contents of presentation. Carlo already made a very deep introduction of myself. What I will show during this presentation is actually The main goals of these 14 5-year plans for energy in China, just before Carlos said that everything is written in China, so just go and read it. And actually this plan was released, as also Matteo Tanteri said 1 week ago. I cannot say I read all of that, but I read the main points, so I will try to make a summary here. Just a quick touch of the international crisis and its consequence of energy, a few discussion about technologies and especially hydrogen. And as Carlo already mentioned, I will just touch upon what Ansaldo Energia is doing for energy transition, at least in China, in Europe and in China, but above all in China. And then I will finish with some potential strategic implication for company in China. So let's go to this 5-year plan. As it was said before, on 22nd of March, so a few days ago, the government released the 14th 5-year plan for the energy sectors with some general direction, task, goals. Actually, this document is quite general. And then every province will just go more in details about that. Okay, the plan called to accelerate for a modern energy system is actually one of the first time that it's used this word system, which means actually this plan will go in a more comprehensive way. And this basically stands for a clean, low carbon, secure and high efficiency system, according to some spokesperson. There are actually 5 goals in the plan, but I will focus on 4. Which are written there. So energy security, energy transition, energy efficiency, and innovation capabilities. Let's go one by one. Of course, the first 2 are more important, but they are basically all of them are important depending on which is the business of your company. Energy security. Actually, this topic, it's pretty important in this 5-year plan for many reasons. The first one is that last winter in China, we have a power shortage, at least in the eastern side of China. And of course, because of the international crisis now, so the Russian-Ukrainian crisis and the US-China relationship, so China needs to be secure for energy. So the plan calls for a comprehensive energy production, so made by coal, oil, gas, and non-fossil energy. We will come back on that later. The plan focuses on capability of oil and gas. Usually China relies on importing these 2 goods, but actually the plan stressed the importance of the capability of supplying and storing. It was mentioned today, storing gas and storing energy. This is very important for the security of the energy system. Then the plan also asked for 3,000 gigawatts of total installed capacity by the end of 2025. It's maybe too ambitious because we probably, I mean, that there's a big gap. But at least it's important that the plan mention the capacity instead of the production as a target. And this again goes in the direction of security system. So China needs to be secure and independent in terms of energy. This is clearly there. Energy transition, this is a very wide topic, only a few words. The plan targets for 80% of reduction for CO2 intensity. In China, we have CO2 per unit of GDP. To take into account the differences of the industrialization of provinces, which is always different, and a 20% of share of non-fossil energy in the next 5 years. So what to expect? Actually, this topic was already mentioned by Matteo before. We didn't talk together, but we have basically the same understanding. Coal will stay there, at least for a medium, very short term. Coal will not disappear in China. There will be opportunities for clean coal, so maybe carbon capture system, but coal will still be there. Gas, I also agree, it will be the medium of energy for the short, medium-term transition. And then after 2030, we will for sure see a ramp up of the renewables. So the highest level will be reached by 2050 and 2060. We never mentioned that too much, but it's something real. Nuclear is also here. There's a plan of 200 gigawatt for the country in the next years. Also, this is a bit ambitious as well, but something will happen for sure. Okay, this is a chart from my company, so you see also that the logo is different. Okay, actually, you can see more or less what I just said. Just a few words. You see this gray, light gray area is coal. Coal is supposed to increase up to 2030 and then decrease in 2050. Then you see here these two blue and light blue is solar and wind. You see there will be an exponential growth after 2030. And gas, unabated natural gas, is still there. It will increase a little bit by 2030 and then goes down. And nuclear, it's this dark blue. You see, will increase up to 2050. The source is IEA, of course, and it's like a forecast, but it's actually in line with what we said before, and it's in line with this just released energy plan. Energy efficiency, I will not spend too much word on that, but also here there is a target, 35% of reduction per unit of energy consumption per unit of GDP. Mainly it will interest the manufacturing sectors to go to some less energy intensive policies. Why energy efficiency is important for China? Because as we said, China is a huge producer of consumer of electricity. So even like a small reduction of a small improvement in efficiency will lead to a great saving of energy. And then last but not least, innovation capabilities. On purpose, I put let's say the logo of H2 of hydrogen in the charts. There's a reason for that. I think it was mentioned several times also today. China is pioneering this technology since 2010 and is still there. And today they have reached a really high level of technology. Nuclear is there for innovation. They're planning to build these so-called generation 4 reactors. I'm not an expert here in nuclear. I'm more focused on gas, but these kind of reactors are such kind of reactors that are not supposed to be melt down in any circumstances. And of course, also electrical vehicles and fuel cell electrical vehicles. Okay, Komao already explained it a lot, so I'm not going here to detail this, but it's another area of opportunities for company for technology. By the way, China has the largest fleet worldwide of electrical vehicles and produces the majority of batteries. This is something we know. Okay, then I give you just after talking about the plan, I give you maybe a view about this international crisis, especially the Russian-Ukrainian one. Many people is asking me, will China slow down or improve or accelerate the carbonization in China, or what they will do? Okay, I just put 3 points on the table. We said before that there was a shortage of power, and because of the crisis, China wants to be secure about energy, so there will not be huge step in decarbonization. It will happen, but not tomorrow. So coal will still stay there. Gas in 2 or 3 years, if everything goes as planned, we will have a new pipeline coming from Siberia, new gas from China. So that's why gas, again, will play an important role in the medium term in China. Renewables. China is the leader of renewables here, at least for technology. And I would say that maybe also Europe will somehow lean on China in the near term for technology renewable. So what is the answer to the question? I honestly don't think that the carbonization will be faster, but what I believe is that at the end of the day, China will define itself as a key player, not only for energy transition in China, but for the global energy transition. As we know, they're very good in planning, so this might happen in my view. Okay, for hydrogen, I will not spend so much word here. As it was said before, on the day after the energy plans on the 23rd, the NDRC issued a statement. China will increase the production of green hydrogen. Today, China is basically producing hydrogen from fossil fuels, but they will increase this, and they will also crazily increase the number of cars fueled by hydrogen. There are a few examples here. Actually, China has just built the biggest electrolyzer in the world, which is the one in Ningxia, and they will continue with the one in Xinjiang in mid-2023. So for sure, hydrogen will be an important medium, an important vector for China for energy security needs and also to achieve Chinese climate goals. This is an example, something real. China actually, many of you know, they have developed this industrial city in Foshan, mainly focused on hydrogen for the transportation. Here you see the bus, but actually they have a huge plan even after 2030. This plan, okay, we will not go into details, but this plan will shift the focus from towards, let's say, green hydrogen, and not only to transportation, but for sure also to other technology. But this is to say that actually China is doing something already for more than 10 years. So they know this will come. Okay, then finally, in the last 2 or 3 slides, let me just address a few points of what Ansaldo Energy and my company is doing for energy transition. Actually, we have a wide range of products. If you check this slide, starting from these transition-ready products, okay, the major product for us is gas turbine. We have hydrogen-ready gas turbines. I will show you a chart later, which is for us very interesting for China. We made steam turbines for geothermal power plants and synchronizer condenser for the grid. Then we have products for energy storage. One of the most innovative we have is the one that's using CO2 as a medium for energy storage. It's called energy transition combined cycle. Then we have actually we are just starting to produce wind turbine with some cooperation with external company, and hydrogen, again, not only for gas turbine, but also we are starting the business in the electrolyzer manufacturing and power and hydrogen, so-called hydrogen plants. What is our major product in China for the energy transition? For sure, gas turbine, but not only fueled by gas, but also by hydrogen. Here I show you our biggest gas turbine, the GD36. It's fueled by gas. We have one plant here in Shanghai, which is under construction and will go in commercial operation hopefully next year. Of course, we are a little bit delayed because of COVID. This gas turbine, which is producing 760 megawatt and 62.6 of efficiency, plant net efficiency, is able to burn gas, but is also able to burn hydrogen, so reducing drastically the CO2 emission. That's why this is our product for energy transition in China, at least for the moment. Okay, I will skip this slide. It just say that the more hydrogen you put in the gas turbine, at least 70%, the more you go down with the emission of CO2. So you see this green light is CO2 emission. You will drastically go down as long as you increase the hydrogen in gas turbine. Final one. So I keep the time. Okay, just a few potential, is my view, strategic implication of the company for China. There might be others. First, I always say that please engage with authorities as fast as you can. Carlos said at the beginning, China is putting everything on writing. You have documents are there, just go and read it. But usually those documents are quite general. So engaging with authorities at the early stage will help you to understand more and shape a little bit the policies. Then there will be opportunities for coal. I said coal was still there. So especially carbon capture, gas, renewables, and nuclear. We said this before. Storage was also said by Matteo Tanteri before. Gas storage is there, or generally speaking, energy storage, because China needs to be secure. Systems for energy efficiency, as we said when described in the 5-year plan. And then, since there is a commitment on technology, there might be opportunities for joint development of technology and joint ventures something like this to develop the technologies. Last but not least, as I mentioned many times, hydrogen. There's space for hydrogen for every sector: power, automotive, steel, whatever. There's an high technology here, and there's space for that. This is my last slide. Thanks so much for your kind attention.
Wow, Luigi, thank you, because your presentation puts all together what we have been said today in an easier way and adding a new special point, which is kind of takeaways of today's webinar. Thank you so much for this insightful presentation and to explain to our still numerous attendees about which one are the sector and also the role. Now is the time of the Q&A. I would like to start again with to give the priority to Eleonora, because I was so curious, because she was speaking about challenges for Pirelli to become carbon neutrality. But overall, which one do you believe are the difficulties of implementing the carbon emission trade? No, sorry. Which one are the major challenges for the enterprise that wants to become carbon neutral into all the value chain? We know that also Tim Cook with Apple start to push in this direction. And please give me your insight as an expert.
Definitely, there's no doubt. As of today, the major challenge is the one of decarbonizing the supply chain.
Okay.
Definitely. And in the supply chain, the major challenge is to decarbonize the materials supply chain for those that, as us, as Pirelli is, are manufacturers of a product that uses raw materials. That is definitely the key point, because you have to convince them, because simply you cannot pay for the supply chain decarbonization. So they have to engage themselves in buying renewables, in buying whatever, in making investments, as we do on our side, and as our clients ask us to do. But at the end, the clients are downstream. They want the product that is clean. So, of course, those that are in the middle, that have to supply clients, cannot bear the cost of the full supply chain. It's simply unsustainable. So also regulations, as China is doing, as they are definitely for energy efficiency, for example, are definitely key, because it's no more a matter that part that would rely on the convincement, the fact that we have to convince our suppliers. Well, they have to do because of the regulation. If it was similar also in other countries, that would be great, because it would bring immediately, because of compliance, a reduction in the emission of the supply chain. Otherwise, it's a matter of convincement. Otherwise, we have to pay. So that is the key challenge.
Thank you, Eleonora, to make it clear. And thank you. Now we have another question for Gaetano, that he was discussing about e-mobility. And which one are the market development? Do you see any consolidation? You show us a beautiful chart of 10 plus brands where the three were different, but I saw also like NIO, Xiaopeng, that they are pushing with beautiful car. And you don't see a Chinese Stellantis?
Yeah, and okay, what can I say? As I say in my chart, at the moment there are three major players in this group, and they cover the most of the volume. But the newcomer you mentioned, NIO and Xiaopeng, they are the two most aggressive OEM for several reasons, but also because the cars are beautiful. No, both of them are producing very nice cars. And what I see is that they are pushing quite hard on installing capacity, which means that they have a huge plan to start to give some trouble to the top three. Then, of course, there are the historical OEM, of which Stellantis is part of, no? Talking about other brands and so on, that are developing their own plan and strategy. But I mean, in this moment, all the brands have already established an ongoing strategy for NEV. For example, the announcement of Maserati recently, they are going to be only electrical. I don't remember, it's 2030. So it is that for the car development is a really short time. No, because
thank you. This is you know, because we are speaking a lot of the possibility of consolidation, but you can still, the small, they become bigger, and the bigger even bigger, you know.
Yes.
And, but we will keep monitoring. And I want 1 second touch base with Luigi before I and after Nikita, I will ask a question that we received about subsidies, if there exist any subsidies for the carbon transition. Carbon neutrality and energy transition. Do you believe that this is an open buffet of opportunity also for European companies, for foreign companies, or is already everything taken by the Chinese brands?
No, absolutely not. This is an opportunity for everybody. I also can somehow mention it in the presentation. Chinese brands are there, but if the Italian company engage quickly and fast with the authorities and with the Chinese partners, there will be plenty of opportunity. I have to say something. Here, of course, almost always, especially in the energy sector, you need a partner for that. So the point is to engage quickly and bring the Italian technology also here, sometimes in joint venture or in cooperation with Chinese company. Sometimes we forget Italians, we are champions in several technologies. So we have the opportunity, sometimes we undervalue ourselves. We have the opportunity to come here, bring our technology, and join a Chinese company and make something real. This could really happen. At least this was the experience of Ansaldo here.
Thank you, Luigi, for the green note. Nikita, any subsidies, any incentives for companies in China to become greener?
Understood. Yes, Carlo. Actually, there have been recently some announcements for the subsidies for companies which actually purchase those so-called new energy vehicles, so essentially electric vehicles, those which will install charging stations, electric charging stations, and also promote, as mentioned previously, the so-called clean coal utilization and carbon emission reductions. These policies are always updated, and this is something that we see especially this year already and also in the past year. There is also focus on the transition to clean energy, to wind and solar, especially in China. And of course, a lot of companies are granted certain privileges based on this.
And if they want to know more, they can even ask, because I know, as Luigi was mentioning, that there are the rules, but after you need to engage the authorities. So maybe they can also contact you to have a better understanding in order what they can get, what is needed, and what is the procedure to do it.
Absolutely. The negotiations with authorities will be the next step, and actually one of the most important ones to get the exact specific.
I believe we should involve our lawyer, Mandy, right? You were discussing about the environmental task and environmental regulation the company should follow. What's happening if they don't do it? Is it true that there is a watchdog Chinese that they are going and checking every company, especially the foreign one?
Yeah, thank you, Carlo. Actually, the Chinese enforcement in China has been increasingly strict, that all the companies can feel the same, no matter for the international companies or for the local companies, even for the state owned companies. All the companies has felt increasingly stress for the enforcement procedure. For example, for the environmental transparency that I talked to this morning, not this one, just now. If like the company fails to publish the environmental information, it may first receive the notice from the bureau saying that it has to date. If the company still fails to after the notification, then it will be might be subject to the high monetary penalties, and especially for the listed companies.
Then they need a lawyer, I guess, if they don't do it.
For sure. For sure.
Thank you, Mandy. So thank you all our speakers. I know that there are the opportunity, many other questions we will try to address later on to our speaker. Thank you to be here, Eleonora, Luigi, Nikita, Gaetano, Mandy, and as well Matteo, we are representative of the Italian Embassy, the Italian Foundation. It was wonderful afternoon for us in China and a great morning for Italy. And of course, for us that we are following for Shanghai, please stay safe. Today, remember that before the sunrise, the night is the darkest moment, okay? With this, I give you a big hug. Stay safe. We're going to meet you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.